Okay, let me tell you about this DVD. This is Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. This version was released in 1938. Now, there are other versions out there, don't get me wrong, but truthfully, I haven't seen them. So I cannot give you a comparison. So if that's what you're looking for, you're going to have to continue do some research. But I can tell you about the one I have, and it was set back in the 1800s, of course. And Ebenezer Scrooge, he's a tightwad. Okay, let's just call it what it is. He's a miser, he's a tightwad, and he doesn't want to spend a penny, but he wants to make a dollar, and that's him. So, unfortunately, Bob Cratchit is his employee, so he just got to deal with, like I said, don't want to spend a penny. You can't burn the coal to heat the office up, and so you just do what you got to do. Just help him make more money, but don't spend a penny. And so Bob Cratchit goes home to his family, and all is well. Ebenezer Scrooge, he goes home. Now, his partner, Marley, who had died 7 years prior on Christmas Eve, and so he shows up, and he's, the ghost of Marley shows up, and he's got chains on, he's making all kinds of ruckus and a racket, with these heavy chains. And he tells Ebenezer, if you don't change your ways, this is your future. And Ebenezer's like, what are you talking about? He said, I have to go through eternity with the chains on because I didn't do good when I was living. He said, but you got time to change. He said, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be visited by 3 ghosts tonight, and one is going to show up at 1 o'clock, one's going to show up at 2 o'clock, and one's going to show up at 3. 1 o'clock is the past, 2 o'clock is the present, and 3 o'clock is in the future. So, Ebenezer, he's like, he's not worried about it. He's just like, figuring it's just indigestion. I'm not going to deal with it, worry about it. All this, even talking to Marley, it's just indigestion. So he goes on to bed. Sure enough, 1 o'clock comes, and the ghost of Christmas, the ghost of the past shows up. And so she said, I am going to take you and show you your past. Before you was so hard. And he's like, well, how am I going to do this? If we're going to fly, I can't fly. She said, I'll touch your heart and you'll be fine. So that's what she does. She places her hand on his chest and they proceed. But anyway, she shows him when he was at the boarding school, and that all the rest of his classmates was going home for the holidays, but his father had told him to stay there and hit the books. So he wasn't going to be able to go home for the holidays. He wasn't happy, but so be it. What can he do? So he's dealing with it. And later he is surprised when his younger sister shows up and says, hey, Dad says you can come home. So he's happy now because he gets to go home and spend the holidays with his family. And then the ghost of the president shows up and takes him around, shows him life with Fred and Beth having a party, and always, everyone's happy. And he shows him Bob Cratchit and his family and how they're happy. They don't have a whole lot of money, but they're happy, and that was the important thing. And so then you see the ghost of the future, and he said, now the ghost of the future don't say a word. And Mario, he does all this speaking. He said, let me guess, you're the ghost of the future. And you see the head nod. He said, and this is going to be my future unless things change. Yes. So he shows him a graveyard, a headstone, but he doesn't want to see it. He also shows him, and people telling people that he had passed away, and none of them seems the least bit heartbroken. And they said, well, we're going to need help to bury him. Well, it depends on what day it is. In other words, it better be on the weekend because I'm not going to miss work to bury him. And so he realizes that it's not good. And he sees the Cratchit family on how they lost Tiny Tim, and so he just is not happy. And then he realizes the coldness, and the tombstone was his, and that no one really cared about the fact that he had passed away. And you see him with his pillow, I can't stand no more, I can't stand no more. And he wakes up, and it's like, it's gotta be cheese or ham or something. In other words, indigestion. So then he goes to sleep, but then he wakes up a few hours later, and he looks outside. It's a bright day, and he sees the young lad, and he tells him, go buy a bird, and that's hanging in the butcher's window. And so then he goes over to Fred's house, where Beth and all them are there, and he tells Beth, he whispers in her ear, and then she whispers in Fred's ear. But the big news is he's going to make Fred, his nephew, his partner. And so, of course, Fred is really happy. So now they can proceed on with the wedding as they wanted. Now that Fred's finances has improved. And so then they go over, they get a bunch of presents. I don't know what shop is open for them to buy all these gifts and the paper to wrap them in, but they do. They get all these gifts and they wrap them up, and they get a big meal, and they go over to Bob Cratchit's house, and Mrs. Cratchit is like, our children, she's like, he's crazy. And she's afraid, something going on, that Ebenezer is cracked and just lost and going crazy. And, but then he tells Bob Cratchit, I'm going to give you a raise. And it's like, what? And he had been terminated on the day before, but Bob never did tell his wife, so she had no clue that they were spending up until that point, was spending the holidays with Bob unemployed. But uh, he, it is, and Tiny Tim is, gets whatever, gets the treatment that he needs, and so Tiny Tim is around for years to come. So, be sure to hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. All right, thank you.